Can the famous Walther PPK 380 palmed by Daniel Craig's James Bond take out Venom Let There Be Carnage at the box office this weekend? Let's get into it. Renegade Online. Well, good Friday morning, everyone, and we just have some fresh numbers come in for the Bond 007 No Time to Die Thursday night preview numbers. We're going to discuss those in just a minute, but as a primer, of course, we want to talk a little bit about Venom, get caught up on where that is, because unlike Shang-Chi that came out Labor Day weekend, had no competition the entire month of September. It was basically the only big movie in the box office and had a clean run for about 4 weeks. Well, Venom, of course, this weekend, as we discussed in our video last week, or I think Monday it was, talking about the amazing first weekend that Venom had. We discussed that, of course, this was going to be a little bit different. Venom was going to get some immediate competition in the second weekend with James Bond. Venom still has not opened up in the international markets by and large yet. You see here on the screen, we've got about 106 million to date through Wednesday this week for Venom 2. We have 21,600,000 international, and that is pretty much just Russia. That's the only international market, really, where Venom has opened up. There are a few more international markets for Venom opening up this weekend. Of course, the bulk of the international market, the rest of the world basically, will open up to Venom. Sans China, of course, at this point. China still does not have a release date for Venom, but the expectation is that they, in fact, will at some point. But that happens next weekend. That way, James Bond had a clean run in the international market for at least a week or two. Venom will have a clean run in the domestic market for a week here before Bond took over, so they kind of swapped out. Good on both parts, good on both studios. You want to give movies a little bit of breathing room to get their initial audience. But the big question, of course, is how well will Venom hang on this weekend? Venom needs about roughly 375 to 400 million in that range to get to break-even territory. Venom's production budget, according to Scott Mendelson at Forbes, for the first Venom movie was around 90 million, and for Venom 2, the production budget was reportedly, according to, again, Scott Mendelson at Forbes magazine, around 110 million, actually less than I anticipated last video that I did on Venom. I thought it might be upwards of around 150, but they've managed to keep those production budgets down very handily at Sony, so good on them. So, of course, that's going to reduce the amount of box office they need to clear the break-even point. Also, we can assume, again, around an $80 to $100 million global P&A, that's print and advertising marketing campaign, probably all-in cost somewhere in the neighborhood of around $200 million for Venom, thereabout. And again, with Sony getting probably some of the very best rental agreements or revenue-sharing agreements with theatrical exhibitioners right now, because they're truly theatrically exclusive with no caveat on the back end, like Disney movies right now having everything between now and the end of the year, including Shang-Chi, with a 45-day limited theatrical window. Theaters just can't give the same kind of terms that they're going to give a company like Sony, or as we see some of the other ones come out that have been theatrically exclusive also from places like Universal and things like that, with Venom and now No Time to Die with James Bond. Different story for them. So let's take a look. Venom, hopefully this weekend. I think if Venom hangs on with about, I think if it hangs on around north of 40 million, it stays in that 50 to 60% drop range. I think that'll be fairly reasonable considering the competition that's coming in from Bond. And if it does, I see Venom kind of clearing that hurdle. The big thing is, what is the international market going to look like for Venom? That was key for the first Venom, even without China. So we really need to see what it's going to look like with Venom 2. And unfortunately, like I said, we're not going to have any idea what those numbers are going to look like until after next weekend. So about 10 days from now, we should be able to make a relatively good judgment call on whether or not Venom is going to be successful. Shang-Chi, on the other hand, when we did our calls on that, it was pretty clear right off the bat that it was going to struggle, mostly because while Shang-Chi had a relatively admirable domestic performance, it did not fare well in the international markets, and it also didn't get any of that Disney Plus money like Black Widow had to really get it over the hump, which is why Black Widow probably made it into the black, meaning it made it into profit territory almost certainly, whereas Shang-Chi is still struggling to reach it. And at this point, with it closing out of theaters in 10 days and it winding up on Disney Plus for free in about a month from now, I just can't see it getting to that $450 to $500 million range to make its nut and get over that hump. So moving on. Like I said, we have Venom. Venom is going to have some competition this weekend, and No Time to Die racks up a $6.3 million Thursday night preview. To my understanding, this also included some special select theaters in certain cities at a single 7 p.m. showing on Wednesday night. So it's Thursday plus a smidge of Wednesday. Now, you look at this and you say $6.3 million. Hey, we just had Venom. Venom cracked 11.6, nearly double that Bond number. So that's really not that good. But matter of fact, this is actually, when compared to other James Bond flicks, particularly Daniel Craig ones, it actually does extremely well. So from the article, and this just broke about 3 minutes before I hit the record button on this video, about 6:54 a.m. Pacific time, 8:54 a.m. where I am in Central. United Artists releasing MGM, Eon's No Time to Die, clocked $6.3 million from Thursday previews, which began at 4 p.m. Thursday, making it the best Bond domestic preview number ever, 19% ahead of Spectre's $5.25 million 6 years ago. It also exceeds the preview nights of 007 Craig movie Skyfall with $4.6 million off of midnight shows, so that did not go all the way back to 7 o'clock. And Quantum of Solace, $2.5 million off of an 8 p.m. showtime, so a singular showtime. No Time to Die's number is lower than last Thursday's 11.6. The second best previewed Black Widow's 13.2. Venom skewed. Okay, and this is the important part. This is where we're going to see how the weekend box office holds up between Venom and Bond. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not that terribly far apart. I could see Bond, in this case, clocking in between 50 and 60 million, which is what the expectations are right now. I think that jives with the Thursday night preview numbers, and I think Venom could hold in around that $40 million range I'd like to see it get to. Even in the very high 30s, I think would be relatively acceptable for its trend because, again, I think the international markets that's what's going to propel Venom into profit territory. But again, I think this is an important piece of the article here. Here we go. Spectre saw an audience that was 29% over the age of 45, 15% of the audience over 55. So that's a very different audience than what we got for Venom, where it says previously, note that Venom skewed more broadly with Hispanic and Latino audiences and younger audiences. Bond is generally, it skews older audiences. It doesn't mean that everybody that goes sees a Bond movie is 40 plus and everybody that goes to see Venom is 35 or younger. It just means that there's more demographic pushed into one bucket in terms of preference for movies or types of movies than the other. What that means is we might not have a tremendous amount of pick and choose. You're going to have the audience who want to see Bond show up to see Bond, which is going to be a different audience, not entirely, but a decent bit, a different audience that's going to show up to see Venom. Certainly there's going to be some overlap. Both of these movies I'm interested in seeing. Again, thanks to recent hurricane activity down here in the Gulf Coast, my theater had its roof ripped off, so kind of stuck. I'm hoping they get open. They did announce that they're supposed to be open by the time that Dune rolls around in a couple of weeks, and I'm definitely going to go for that. So I might be seeing all three of these things in one weekend. Who knows? So we'll see what happens at this point with this really, really good start for James Bond. Now, of course, the caveat being that this Bond film has to reach almost $1 billion just to break even. Around $950 million, according to a number of sources. The incredible production cost running over $300 million for this movie. After they did a bunch of reshoots, of course, they had another $150 or so million in global marketing costs, which may have actually approached $200 since they had to market this movie 2 and 3 times due to repeated delays from pandemic and lockdowns. And then, of course, the amazing carrying costs on all of that money. If you figure around 5%, they're probably into about $15 to $20 million easily just in interest payments on some of this stuff. So because of the length of time it's been since they completed filming this movie. So we'll see what happens. We're going to do an update, and we'll talk more about those numbers. It's got a tall ladder to climb, so you could really have an $800 million global box office on this movie and technically still call it a fail, which would be a shame. I've been a fan of the Craig Bond stuff. I'm looking forward to this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you going to go see it this weekend? Are you going to see Venom? Have you already seen Venom? Let's talk about that, and then we're going to catch up on this again Monday morning. Stay tuned, and until next time, take care.